As the wedding day approached, my fiancée demanded an increase in the bride price from me in order to gather funds for her childhood friend's startup. I disagreed, but she felt I was heartless and accused me, saying, "Someone like you, who grew up in wealth, can never understand how difficult life is for children from poor families. 5 million is nothing. Your family can easily make that much." Later, the two of them shamelessly flaunted their love in front of the new store's employees. "It's just one woman, why should I have to settle for you?" It wasn't until my fiancée saw that the main female lead of the grand wedding had been replaced that she completely broke down. "George, you're testing me, aren't you?" Chapter 1. Is Miss Sue's schedule full for the 8th of next month? The Wong family is hosting an event. Not sure if you're interested in joining. I didn't have her contact details, so I sent an invitation in the group we both shared with mutual friends. Anna Sue quickly responded, "Isn't the 8th your wedding day? What, missing a bride?" Everyone assumed she was joking, and just as I was about to tease her, I quietly replied, "Will you come?" Her reply was just one word, "Yes." I clicked on Anna's profile to send a friend request, September 8th, our wedding day. See you there. After hitting send, I put my phone away and walked into the study, lost in deep thought. From the moment I entered university, I had pursued Willow for 4 years. On graduation day, I thought this love would remain buried in my heart, but unexpectedly, it was that day that she finally accepted my confession. Later, after 4 years of being together, I finally managed to get Willow to agree to marry me. God knows how happy I was at that moment. I thought love would end on a perfect note, but who would have thought that a single message would shatter all my dreams? Willow had agreed to lend 5 million to Makoto as startup capital. I went from shock to eventual understanding. After all, no matter how many little savings Willow had before marriage, it had nothing to do with me. She could make decisions about her own matters. But the message was sent in the morning, and the bride price was added in the afternoon, 5 million. No more, no less. With half a month left, Willow increased the initial bride price from 500,000 to 5 million. What happened to the concept of premarital property? They made their decision, and I became the one paying for it all. 5 million isn't a small amount. What would be? Or do you think the Wong family prints money? If Makoto weren't starting a business, would the bride price still be the original amount? "George, I really misjudged you." He said, "It's a loan. He'll pay it back later." Willow thought there was no issue. She and Makoto had grown up together, and the Ito family couldn't provide much to support his dreams. So if she didn't help, he would end up living a mediocre life. Moreover, 5 million was just a small amount for the Wong family. Willow, in a fit of anger, threw down her chopsticks and locked herself in the bedroom, trying to force me to comply by refusing to eat. I wasn't feeling great either. It felt like a thorn was stuck in my throat. Our wedding was so close, but my bride was using this moment to benefit her male friend. Seeing that I didn't immediately comfort her, Willow feared the situation would escalate and went to reconcile. She walked over to me, ready to say something soft, but suddenly, her phone rang. Willow glanced at the phone, looked at me sitting on the sofa, and decisively answered the call. "Willow, the debt collectors are here again. I really can't handle it anymore. Please help me." Willow clenched her phone, gave me a dark look, and said, "Okay, don't worry, I'll think of something." She then turned and rushed to her room to change clothes before hurriedly leaving. As I watched her figure disappear, my eyes welled up, and I asked her, "Willow, are you sure you want to do this?" Willow paused and turned back, her eyes filled with disappointment as she said, "George, how have you become so unreasonable?" The door slammed shut behind her, and I stood there, lost in thought, staring at her slender figure. Willow was exceptional, both in appearance and figure. Otherwise, as a senior, I wouldn't have noticed her so quickly at the freshman orientation. But after all, there were too many people chasing Willow back then, and she had developed a cold and aloof demeanor. I was the only one who pursued her relentlessly. Willow once told me, "My family isn't well off. Right now I just want to focus on my studies." I replied, "It's okay, I'll wait for you." And wait I did. For 4 years, my friends advised me not to be a simp. If she doesn't initiate, doesn't reject, and doesn't accept, it just means she's keeping you on the hook. Don't leave the relationship ambiguous now, because by the time you graduate from university, she won't need a sucker to pay for everything. By then, don't end up with nothing. But my love-struck brain was beyond imagination. Not only did I pursue Willow, but I also went out of my way to please her friends, hoping these little mothers-in-law would speak kindly of me. Chapter 2. I can never forget the day Willow graduated. She walked up to me with her suitcase, squinting her eyes and flashing a bright smile, saying, "George, let's give it a try." That try lasted another 4 years. I treated her like a princess in the palm of my hand. Yet she still didn't want to marry. Willow said she was still young and didn't want to be a housewife too soon. As long as the two of us loved each other, a wedding wasn't necessary. I didn't want to make her feel pressured, and I was willing to respect her wishes. Then, Willow suddenly said she wanted to get married and give our love a perfect ending. Of course, I was overjoyed and immediately had my mother start planning the wedding. The bride price went from $500,000 to $1 million, and then $5 million. I thought it was the greed of her family, and I pitied my fiancé for living in such a family. But only recently did I find out that Willow had been raising the price to help her poor childhood friend. I regretted it. I had heard of helping a brother, of parents acting like vampires, but this was the first time I had seen someone sell themselves to support a childhood friend, and the price kept increasing, again and again. Did she really think I was a fool? I looked at my phone, where Anna had agreed to the friend request. With just one sentence, it settled then. In fact, it wasn't just Willow who had a childhood friend, I had one too. Anna and I had grown up together, from similar family backgrounds and abilities. We were a perfect match, but as I got lost in love, we gradually drifted apart. Once I confirmed my relationship with Willow, I lost all contact with Anna. I still remember the last thing I said to Anna: "You think she's a pretentious coquette, keeping me on a leash, but why doesn't she keep someone else on a leash? Isn't it because she likes me?" She gave me a look like I was crazy and left, and from that moment, our chat history was filled with a long string of red exclamation marks. Even at family gatherings, we'd try to avoid each other. Who would have thought that after 4 years, we'd reconnect over something like this? Looking at the clean chat page, I wondered what I could do to make up for it. But during all these years I was lost in love. Anna's career had soared. In every aspect, she would outshine me. It was just like that saying, being a simp leaves you with nothing in the end. Even when it came to the wedding, Willow was calculating how to sell herself for a good price to win over another man. What did that make me? The legitimate fiancé? A big fool? Or an ATM? Thinking about it, I closed my eyes, clenched my teeth, and continued planning the wedding. Since she wants to be someone else's simp, I'll just get myself a new bride. Abandoning emotions and weighing the pros and cons, it was far too easy for people like us in this circle. 2 hours passed, and my phone still hadn't received any response. Just as I was about to consider my next move, the phone suddenly rang. A crisp, efficient female voice came through, but it sounded oddly similar to the sweet voice from when she used to cling to me as a child, calling me George brother. George, I'll say this first, although in our circle, married couples do their own thing. Anna will not allow her partner to be involved in any scandal about keeping a mistress. God knows how long she'd spent calming down her excited emotions. She, of course, knew that the person living in my heart couldn't be cleaned out instantly, but she still nodded and agreed. You know how much I care about the Sue family's reputation. If you dare mess with me, I'll make you regret it. Then be ready. Wait for me to come back. The phone call ended, and I was still processing. Did she just agree to it? I looked around the villa. Although we hadn't officially moved in together, Willow's things were everywhere. I smiled coldly and thought, Willow, it's your business if you want to give the bride price to Makoto, but whether or not I give you the bride price, that's my business. This time, I'm not being a simp. Willow didn't come back that night. The next day, in the break room, the employees couldn't stop discussing it. The new coffee shop in the adjacent shopping district was having an event, and if the discount wasn't so low, these elitist people wouldn't have even been tempted. I glanced at the phone of the person sitting next to me. The shop's name was Our. I remembered that this was Makoto's shop. Because of poor quality and ineffective marketing, the soft opening hadn't even finished before it was about to close down. Chapter 3. I remember when she first introduced me to Makoto. I was so happy, thinking that I had finally entered Willow's world. But ironically, I was nothing more than Willow's personal ATM, used to please men. Now, the shop was not only offering a 1 yuan afternoon tea promotion originally priced at 98, but also featuring handsome guys and beautiful girls delivering it personally. The promotional photos shared in the group showed Willow and Makoto wearing aprons, tightly nestled together. Although they were looking at the camera, their fingers resting on each other's waistline had already crossed the boundary of friendship, pressing against each other's skin. Everyone began to question the authenticity of the promotional posters. The boss and the boss lady promoting it themselves. This can't be fake. These two really look good together. No wonder they're running a shop. Their aesthetic is on point. Wait, the boss lady looks so familiar. I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. The surrounding people kept chiming in, eagerly discussing whether someone had bumped into the boss's wife. I turned to leave, but just then, Willow's sweet voice came from inside. This is just a promotional event to thank our regular customers and attract more business. Everyone don't need to doubt the authenticity of the event. Please, everyone, help us by sharing and spreading the word. Willow and Makoto's WeChat moments were being screenshot and forwarded everywhere. The boss and the boss lady are giving away benefits. I was laughing in frustration. The bride price hadn't even been settled, and it was already arranged where it was going. With such a public promotion in my own professional circle, it was like they were rubbing my face into the dirt. I clenched my fists and thought, George, you've been a fool long enough. At that moment, my phone rang. It was Anna. George, the thing you said the other day, are you serious? My Sue family can't just rush into marriage. The dowry preparations are already behind schedule. Her voice sounded muffled and a little nervous, and I couldn't help but laugh. This girl had grown up, but still so timid. Seeing that I didn't respond, Anna got angry. I don't care. My parents have already started preparing the dowry. If you dare treat me badly, I'll tell Grandpa Wong and have him hang you up and beat you. I was amused by the girl's words. You think I'm still that 5 or 6-year-old kid? Don't worry. I'll take care of the wedding arrangements. You just focus on being a good bride. Good. Wait for me to pick you up. Pick who up? Just then, the break room door suddenly opened, and Willow walked in wearing high heels. She was wearing the same apron from the promotional photo and had on a meticulously applied makeup. The looks around her gradually became strange. If no one could identify the familiar-looking boss lady earlier, now, everyone just wanted to pretend they didn't see anything. Who would have thought that the boss would be the one to play the mistress for love? I'm not picking anyone up, just a friend returning from abroad. I'll introduce you when the time comes. She'd already stomped all over my face, and picking it up now seemed pointless. Since she wanted to play, I might as well play it big. Willow, instead of being suspicious, seemed a little pleased. After all, being with George was about his connections and resources, right? It seemed George loved her more than she had imagined. Willow wasn't so heartless either, so she immediately grabbed my arm and softened her tone, acting coquettishly. Hubby, don't worry, the money Makoto spends in his shop today, once he's better, he'll pay us back. I could smell Willow's sweet perfume as she was close to me, and I immediately took a step back to avoid her. Willow froze where she stood. I had to explain, Secretary Sue is asking for my signature. Hearing this, Willow reluctantly let it go and, taking advantage of the busyness at the coffee shop, quickly left. After a busy day, the next morning Willow went to her regular beauty salon as usual. But when she tried to pay for her treatment, the cashier hesitated. Miss Liu, the balance on your card is not enough to cover this payment. Willow frowned. Isn't this card meant to be swiped at will? Chapter 4. The staff was shocked. We don't have an unlimited membership card here. In the past, Mr. Wong used to keep an eye on the balance and top it up regularly. Maybe Mr. Wong has been too busy recently. Willow truly didn't know. Since the first time she had a facial, she had fallen in love with the place, but it was too expensive, so she had given up. When George gave her the card, he told her to use it freely, not just here, but also at major brand stores and styling studios. This allowed her to indulge her vanity and earn face in front of her friends. After pulling out her small savings to settle the bill, Willow winced at the pain. She had thought George was just someone with connections who could get discounts, but now she realized it was more about not wanting her to feel any psychological pressure. It wasn't that she wasn't moved, but spending hundreds of thousands on today's facial really hurt her. George was probably still angry, but it seemed like he cared about her. Thinking about this, a faint smile appeared on Willow's face. The staff saw her smile and thought their service had been appreciated. Feeling quite happy, I was so busy at work that I was completely drained. If I had known what Willow was thinking, I might have laughed out loud. How could I still be such a fool, acting like a walking ATM, working myself to exhaustion, while also carrying the weight of Willow's many issues on my shoulders? And yet, that woman felt entitled, even escalating her demands on me. I've figured it out now. Whoever wants to be the simp can be the simp. When I got home after work, I was surprised to find Willow, who should have been with Makoto, was busy in the kitchen. In the past, Willow wouldn't even lift a finger to do anything domestic, but today she was giving the maid the day off. It was a shock. When she saw me return, Willow quickly wiped her hands and ran out to greet me, inviting me to dinner. After a long day of work, children running around the house, and my wife cooking dinner, this was the life I had once dreamed of. Too bad, though, Willow hadn't been working. Instead, she spent her days either shopping and doing beauty treatments with her friends or volunteering at Makoto's place. Maybe time had dulled me, but now, this picture seemed so ordinary. Willow. Suddenly, a shout broke the silence, followed by an urgent figure bursting through the door and knocking into me as I was changing my shoes. Makoto, dressed in sportswear, his voice clear, rushed into the room and grabbed Willow's arm without letting go. Willow, why didn't you go to the shop today? I've been running around like crazy. Willow's carefully created atmosphere was ruined, but she wasn't angry at all. She turned around and hugged him, trying to calm him down. Don't worry. Take your time and tell me what happened. Makoto glanced at me standing at the door and seemed a little awkward. We did get some repeat customers after the event, but since the store opened, I bought second-hand equipment to save costs. Not only does it break down all the time, but it also can't keep track of the product timings accurately. affecting the taste. Everyone's been saying our shop is just for show. They're saying you're not really our boss lady, that you just want to scam them into becoming members. Can you lend me more money to update the equipment, please? I'll pay you back once the shop starts making money. I wasn't far away, and a cold smile appeared on my lips as I headed upstairs. In the past, I thought such decisions would need to be discussed between a married couple first, but then I realized I was overthinking it. Makoto, following Willow's gaze, looked at me, his eyes flashing coldly, but he still pretended to act aggrieved and spoke. George won't disagree, will he? I thought this amount of money would be nothing to you. Willow has the right to manage it. Don't worry, I'll pay you back as soon as I get the money. They both locked eyes with me, seemingly waiting for me to nod in agreement. A cold smile briefly flickered on my lips. I won't lend you anything. Makoto's aggrieved expression immediately froze, and he turned back to Willow, trying to stir things up. Willow, I'm sorry, I really didn't know that you were living like this after marrying him, not even having the right to make small decisions like this. Willow frowned, reached into her bag, and pulled out a bank card, handing it to him. Here's 200,000. You can use this for now. I'll find a way for the rest. Makoto immediately became happy, provocatively glancing upstairs, still feeling uneasy. He asked, where did you get this much money from? What if George gets angry that you gave it to me without asking him? This is the dowry my mom gave me. It has nothing to do with him. Don't worry about it. Chapter 5. Willow was utterly disappointed with me and, in a fit of anger, shoved the bank card into Makoto's hand. I stood in the stairwell, watching everything below, and despite being prepared, my heart still ached like it was being twisted by a knife. What do I even mean to her? Makoto, having received the money, didn't leave immediately. The candlelit dinner Willow had carefully prepared, in light of my lack of appetite, was now taken over by the male lead. As expected, only I thought that life could be the same no matter who I was with. Makoto raised his eyebrows at me, took a bite of the pasta, and swapped it with Willow's. The creamy bacon is too greasy. I'll try yours. Willow, seeing this, felt a little uncomfortable. Before she could say anything, she was interrupted. Makoto's small actions were so obvious. If Willow weren't used to this, she could have rejected him long ago. I'll take a photo and post it on my WeChat. Otherwise, no one will believe we're really married, he said, pulling out his phone and switching to selfie mode. The two of them were completely ignoring me under my nose, acting affectionately, holding hands, hugging each other, their gazes almost smoldering. I looked around at the luxurious villa, feeling absurd. It was indeed a good way to show off financial strength. Unfortunately, it was showcasing my financial strength. I couldn't stand it any longer and stomped my feet louder. Willow heard the sound and quickly distanced herself from Makoto. What's wrong, Willow? Makoto looked at me, puzzled. It's just a photo. George, are you angry? Encouraged by his words, Willow, who had felt a bit guilty before, suddenly became bold. I didn't respond. Just as I turned to head to the study, Makoto's lips landed on Willow's face. The air instantly grew still, and everyone froze in place. Only Makoto wore a casual smirk and said, I've known Willow since we were kids, seen every part of her. If we were going to be together, we would have been together by now. Willow, her neck stiff, nodded, unsure whether she was responding to his words or the kiss. Let's not talk about this anymore. Even though I hadn't eaten, my stomach churned. At that moment, my phone rang. It was my assistant, David. We had arranged for him to come over to discuss business, and he was now waiting outside. I unlocked the door with my phone and saw David awkwardly standing there. Did I come at a bad time? He gave Willow a thumbs up, complimenting her. Only you could dare bring your side guy right in front of your fiancé. It was no wonder David misunderstood. Makoto hadn't even let go of Willow's arm, and they were so close that their bodies were pressed together in a very intimate manner. Willow, realizing she had been misunderstood, hurriedly pushed Makoto away and tried to explain, we're just good friends. Makoto pretended not to understand. Willow, don't listen to him. People with dirty minds will see filth in everything. Anyone who says such things is no good. David's eyes widened in shock. You two were practically undressing in front of your fiancé, putting on a live performance, and you're calling him the dirty one. He sneered and looked at Willow. If you can't see it, just give up your eyesight. Choosing someone like him over George, are you blind? Upstairs, I left with a single command and headed upstairs, with David looking at the two of them as if they were fools, before following behind me. Makoto was dissatisfied, wanting to argue back, but Willow pulled him back. He could only grit his teeth and look at Willow with a pitiful expression. I know I'm not good enough, but I'm sorry. Did I cause you trouble again? He said, pulling at his clothes, lowering his head in self-blame. Willow had grown up with Makoto and couldn't stand seeing him in such a pathetic state. She immediately furrowed her brow and snapped at me. Stop right there. I paused in my steps. He's just an assistant, and you've made him upset like this. Shouldn't you apologize? Did you say something to your subordinates to make them think like this? You should avoid dealing with people like this. Anyone like that should be fired. David had never seen someone so shameless, and his eyes were wide with disbelief. The atmosphere immediately became tense. Seeing her standing up for Makoto so fiercely, it made me look like the villain in the situation. I clenched my fists, my body slightly trembling, the anger inside me almost impossible to contain. I smiled coldly. I had overestimated myself, thinking that if I treated her sincerely, she would feel it. But now, what had I done wrong? Chapter 6. The wedding was approaching, and yet, my fiancée was kissing another man right in front of me, and I was being scolded as if it was all my fault. Did she really think I was a fool? Just an assistant. He was also someone who made money with his own skills. Did he really think everyone was as foolish as that idiot who thought empty words and sweet talk could bring lifelong wealth and glory? I said in a low voice, Willow, no matter how angry you are, it has nothing to do with me. Don't take it out on me. Or am I just a part of your little play? Should I have sat down and watched you show off your love to get more excitement? Makoto, you've kissed my fiancé, and every single thing on your body was bought with my money. Now, you want to talk about dignity? Isn't it too late for that? Both of them turned pale, their faces alternating between green and white. The atmosphere in the room had become suffocating and tense because of their presence. I gestured for David to follow. You two enjoy yourselves. I'll clear the space for you. This was the woman I had pampered in my palm for 8 years, enjoying everything I gave her, while doing everything to hurt me. She even shamelessly shifted the blame onto me. In the study, I took the documents David had handed me and stared at them for a long time, unable to speak a word. I remembered the time when I tried to protect Willow from hardship. As a pampered young master, I had gone to the market in the snow to try and bring Willow back. She told me I didn't understand the struggles of poor people fighting to survive, and that she didn't like me using my wealth to do whatever I wanted. It was so cold that day, but to prove I wasn't a flower in a greenhouse, I willingly stood in the market and sold vegetables for Willow before leaving. Meanwhile, Willow was sent to the nearest luxury hotel to rest. I ran to the hotel with the scattered money I had, hoping to get a single compliment from her. From that day, I lived like a dog, until the heating finally melted the snow on my body, and she finally said, George, let's be together. I thought I had moved Willow with my sincerity, but reality told me again and again, it was all because of money. I would unconditionally give Willow so much money. How ironic. David, seeing my distraction, said indignantly, back in university, none of us supported you chasing after her. See, we were right. Willow, who seemed so aloof and proud, turned out to be such a terrible person behind the scenes. He walked over and punched me on the shoulder, continuing, be grateful. At least you figured out the reality before marriage, so there's still time to regret it. Look at it from another perspective. Someone else's wife has been with you for 8 years. Doesn't that make things feel a little better? David raised an eyebrow, grinning lazily, and instantly relieved the tension in the room. I took a deep breath, calmed myself, picked up the pen on the desk, signed the document, and urged him to leave quickly. David still wanted to vent and said, this kind of woman isn't worth your time. If you're still feeling bad, brother, I'll go out with you for a drink. I gave a bitter smile and, in the end, chose to go out with him. We drank and cursed the air. Bitch, always so pretentious. Suddenly, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. It was Willow. Though I really wanted to hang up, I still answered the call, curious to see what kind of excuse Willow would come up with to deceive me. It was the only thing she ever put effort into. Honey, I'm sorry. Are you home yet? Willow's voice trembled slightly. It sounded like she had just gone through something unpleasant. No, my voice was cold. Can you come back soon? There seems to be a power outage at the villa, and there's no maid around. I'm a little scared. This trick again. Willow knew exactly how to play on my weaknesses. Every time she acted weak, I came running to her like a dog, but it didn't matter. She could fish, so why couldn't I? I gripped the phone tightly, remained silent for a moment, and then reluctantly replied, I'll be back soon. After hanging up, David sighed in disbelief. She's already slapped you across the face, and you still don't feel the pain. Want to offer her the other side of your face? What are you going to do? Go back to her? A pair of scumbag and a slut. Perfect match. Hearing this, I looked at him with disdain, my gaze sharp like a knife, my voice colder than ice. I've been played for so many years. Letting them off so easily would be too much. Chapter 7. I glanced at my phone and stood up to leave. David's house was only half an hour away from the villa, and I arrived right on time, only to find that Villa 7 was dark and silent. Willow was terrified of the dark, and I instinctively rushed in. The living room was empty, the bedroom was empty, the study was empty. I carefully checked every room. My anxious voice echoed in the huge house, but Willow still didn't respond. I turned on the power, and the house was suddenly filled with light. I looked around at the empty villa and let out a self-deprecating laugh. I was such a fool. I had already seen through everything, but I was still being played in circles by her. I clenched my phone, hesitating whether I should call her when the ringtone suddenly rang. It was Willow. George. Sorry. Makoto's machine broke down at his shop, and when he went to fix it, he hurt his hand. I'm on my way to the hospital right now, so you don't need to rush back. I stared at the message, feeling nothing but bitterness. I won't rush anymore. From now on, we're just two people living in separate worlds. The tension that had been hanging in my chest was finally gone. I walked back to my room in silence, when suddenly my phone lit up again. It was a WeChat post from Makoto. In the photo, the two of them were sitting side by side in the hospital, fingers tightly interlaced. The nails on Willow's fingers were unusually familiar. Those were the ones I had just taken her to have done a few days ago. The caption read, "Thank you. You've always been there when I needed you." Willow had even commented just 10 minutes earlier, "Don't worry, I'm always here." So, after comforting Makoto, she finally remembered me. How laughable. The room was terrifyingly quiet. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my gaze sinking like a stone into the dark waters, never to see the light again. So this is what it's like to have a dead heart. I squeezed my eyes shut, but my eyes still burned with tears. Not to mention I had pampered her for 8 years. Even 4 years of our relationship couldn't compare to one word of discomfort from Makoto. Willow had treated me like a dog, and she should have had feelings for me by now. I once thought that their love would end on a perfect note, but now I understood. In Willow's eyes, I was nothing. Ding! My phone suddenly alerted me that there was a new message. I opened it, and it was from Makoto. "Why? Our coffee shop is finally opening tomorrow. We have not just products, but also a surprise I've prepared for you. Looking forward to Mr. Wang discovering it." I saw the message and a cold smile flashed across my lips. Makoto wouldn't know that he still hadn't given Willow the bride price, would he? Well, I was looking forward to the surprise he had prepared. Okay, I was curious to see how it would turn out if no fool helped them pay for everything after all the fuss they made. The next morning, I sent 2 flower baskets to congratulate the new store's opening. Thanks to effective publicity during the soft opening, even though it was a workday, many people still showed up to watch the spectacle. I arrived when the store was the busiest, but Willow still saw me from afar in the crowd. "What are you doing here?" She frowned, clearly displeased, but that didn't affect the couple outfits and aprons the two of them wore. I let out a cold laugh. "Didn't Makoto invite me to the grand opening of your new store?" Willow, irritated, retorted, "You're so petty. How could he invite you?" "George, I've told you many times, Makoto and I are good friends. If there was anything, it would have happened long ago. I came to help him out because of our friendship since childhood, and you're spying on me. I've really misjudged you." Willow's words were full of disappointment towards me. I looked at the woman in front of me and felt like she was a stranger. Maybe the noise over here had attracted a lot of attention, and Makoto, out of nowhere, ran over and wrapped his arm around Willow's waist, looking shocked. "George, what are you doing here?" He scanned the crowd and lowered his voice, speaking only loud enough for the 3 of us to hear. "George, don't worry. Once the funds come in, I'll pay you back immediately." Hearing that, Willow's face turned even more unpleasant. "Get out of here. We'll talk about the money later. I don't want things to get ugly in front of everyone." Seeing Makoto's act of playing the victim made my teeth grind with anger. If this had been before, I would have quietly left, but now, I pulled out my phone and shoved it in their faces. "Didn't you invite me to your opening, Ito? You didn't mention the money issue, and I almost forgot. But I am the major shareholder in this store. I knew exactly what these two were up to. As long as I didn't explicitly refuse them, they still had hope in their eyes." Chapter 8. She played me for 8 years. I've played her for 8 days. That's not too much. As expected, the two of them had complex expressions, but in the end, it was Makoto who had the thicker skin. He stepped forward. Maybe there were too many customers. I forgot to send the group message. It's just a new store opening. So many customers came for me and Willow. But if, Makoto trailed off. "But it's okay. After all, the guests are here. You can choose whatever you like. Today it's all on me." Makoto looked like he wanted to hurry people along and grab their things. It was enough to make me want to vomit. Don't worry. How could I ask for an account here? After all, I hadn't really lent him money. Just then, there was a commotion in the distance, and all eyes were drawn to them. Someone teased them to get on stage and say a few words. Willow looked awkwardly at me, and after a moment of hesitation, she was half pulled by Makoto and left the scene. My heart twisted in an instant. The two of them walked hand in hand, surrounded by employees, and took the microphone, looking like a loving young couple. After sharing a deep, affectionate gaze, they looked around at the crowd. "Thank you all for coming to the opening of Our," Makoto said with a tone full of excitement. "My biggest dream growing up was to open a coffee shop with the person I love the most. Makoto looked at Willow with eyes that almost seemed to melt and continued. And now I've finally made it. He raised their interlocked hands and made a solemn promise to the crowd. From now on, we'll take good care of each other. His words were vague, but everyone there had already decided that he would be Willow's one true love. The crowd cheered, and some even muttered in envy about how lucky this guy was to have found a rich woman as a wife. Sensing the crowd's envy, Makoto stood up straighter, a smug look on his face. The employees below were also grinning from ear to ear. After all, not only were they getting to work with beautiful people, but their salaries were also high. Even when the store had promotions, their commissions were still based on the original prices to maintain service quality. The atmosphere was perfect, and someone from the crowd shouted, "Kiss, kiss." The chants came flooding in, and Willow, standing at a distance, instinctively looked at me. Her face grew paler by the second. She was starting to panic. The chanting continued. Makoto turned his head, following her gaze, and his smug expression disappeared, replaced by a look of guilt as he whispered, "Willow, I'm sorry. I didn't expect it to be like this. I can only ask for your forgiveness now." Willow turned back, seeing Makoto looking at her with an expression of helplessness. "Boss, aren't you a man? Do you expect the boss lady to make the first move?" Makoto couldn't handle such provocation. He pulled Willow into his arms and kissed her. Willow's eyes widened in shock, and the crowd erupted into gasps, all of them watching with wide smiles. Willow stiffened, as if she were separated into two worlds from the people around her. Under the sunlight, the two of them were so striking, and the pain in my chest almost brought tears to my eyes. So this is what it's like to have a dead heart. I stared at the couple kissing passionately on stage, then dropped the bag I was holding and turned to leave. By the time Willow looked up again, the people who had been standing there had already disappeared. Willow's heart clenched painfully, and her anxiety grew. She wanted to jump off the stage and run after me, to explain that things weren't how I thought they were. But Makoto firmly held her back. "Willow, the ceremony isn't over yet. Please wait a little longer. I'm begging you." Makoto, that proud man, was actually begging her, just so he could stay. Seeing him act so pitiful made Willow's heart soften, and she could only let him hold her as they continued chatting and laughing with the guests. But her distracted demeanor might fool everyone else, but it couldn't fool Makoto, who had his eyes fixed on her. Did she care about him that much? I locked myself in my room when I got home, a pile of extinguished cigarette butts at my feet, as I suppressed the sadness within me. Just as I was getting up to pull myself together, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was a photo from Makoto. Willow was asleep on a hotel bed. Chapter 9. George, sorry. Today was all just for fun. We didn't have a choice. Willow's tired, so I'm staying with her at the hotel. Once she's rested, I'll send her back. As for who's rested enough, Makoto's words were sharp, trying to humiliate me as a simp, but I didn't care anymore. Kissing without control, and then going to the hotel to lie in bed together without control. I calmed my emotions and typed a few words on my phone. "Mr. Ito, don't say that. I've already had enough rest. Since you like second-hand goods so much, be sure to take good care of this one." Once the message was sent, I blocked his contact entirely. On the other side, Makoto saw the message and turned pale with rage. Yes, they had grown up together, and Willow had always told George that if they were going to be together, they would have been together long ago. Now, the situation was a slap in the face. Thinking of this, he started to resent both the Liu family and George. If they hadn't rejected him because he was poor, and refused to let Willow be with him, would he have been insulted by George with words like, "only playing with other people's leftovers"? Meanwhile, my phone rang again. It was Anna calling. "George brother, I'm taking the plane tomorrow afternoon. Can you come pick me up?" I thought about it. The wedding we planned is just a week away, and time is too tight. Let's have our parents meet officially first, and discuss the wedding details. My wedding can't be rushed, I replied. "Okay, whatever you decide." Looking at the busy maids in the garden, I smiled faintly. It was time for a new lady of the house. I took a deep breath, called for Wang Ma, and had her pack Willow's things. Willow's cosmetics were piled high on the vanity, and her drawers were filled with various jewelry. Each item was carefully chosen by me, but when I looked at my own few pieces of jewelry, none of them were connected to Willow. The only tie I had was the one I painstakingly bought for her when we went shopping for clothes, and she casually pointed it out. I bought it, eager to please her. I had always thought Willow Liu, who had been pampered in my palm, would never know how to please a good man. After all, my woman just needed to be pampered. Who would have thought that the girl I held in my palm would end up humbling herself like this? On the eve of the wedding, no matter how much the Liu family increased the bride price, I didn't complain. Even when Willow said her family couldn't provide a dowry, I still firmly wanted to marry her. It wasn't that there was no dowry, it was just that I wasn't worthy of knowing about it. She even shoved the money into Makoto's hand in front of me. She was sure that the Wang family wouldn't look down on her because of no dowry, or perhaps she was sure of me. I didn't know how much time passed before the phone on the bed started ringing incessantly. George, I'm too tired today. I won't come over. You should go to sleep early. Why aren't you answering the phone? Are you upset? I'll come see you tomorrow. After that, there was silence. I used to reply to Willow's messages immediately, but now, looking at them, I just felt disgusted. Looking at the several large bags of luggage packed by the maid, I didn't even blink as I had them taken away. The remaining jewelry was donated to a charity. Seeing the gratitude from the charity staff, I suddenly understood the meaning of spending money. Over the years, Willow had never once said thank you. She had always thought my efforts were a given. It turned out that when love fades, you can see things so clearly. Once the crowd dispersed, I blocked all of Willow's contact information and personally went to the control room to change all the passwords for the villa. 8 years of love, this time, it would be cut clean. Chapter 10. On the other side, Willow was resting in the hotel bed, looking at her phone, but no new messages came through. Her unease grew, and after tossing and turning, she couldn't fall asleep. All these years, George had never made her wait like this. Willow clearly felt uncomfortable. The light from the phone screen illuminated Willow's face in the dark. She impatiently scrolled through the photos on her phone, suddenly realizing that she hadn't taken many photos with him. The wedding photos they had taken with so much effort were mostly just shots of her looking beautiful. There was barely one photo of the two of them together, where George's gaze toward her was filled with deep affection. How much did he really love her? Willow felt lucky. Outside the room, Makoto stood with his bare chest showing off his muscular frame, a towel wrapped around his waist, his face soft as he gently asked her to open the door. Willow, are you starving? I brought you something to eat. Although it was the same kind of concern, Willow felt inexplicably annoyed at the sight of his eager expression. Makoto, I think no one really cares whether we're a couple or friends. We should clarify our relationship. Her mind was full of George's cold face. Her phone still hadn't received any response from him. Was George mad? Had she been too nice to Makoto? Willow's mind was in turmoil. She wanted to return to George's side as soon as possible. The shop was doing increasingly well, but how long could this lie last? Willow began to panic. Their wedding was just a few days away, but now George had shown no reaction to this whole fiasco. Makoto was stunned for a moment. The tray in his hand almost dropped. Seeing Willow's expression, he even began to suspect that she might know something. But now that things had gotten this far, asking him to give up wasn't just a slap in the face, it would also affect the shop's business. He couldn't take that risk. Makoto cautiously looked at Willow, his voice shaky. Has George been difficult with you? I can talk to him. After all these years, I've always thought of you as a sister. If he doesn't trust me, how could he not trust you? He sounded nervous, his voice trembling. If George really cares, we'll sort it out. After all, even though he's the one putting up the money, he doesn't need to pay for our problems. Just 2 sentences and he'd push George into the role of the enemy. Trust. What a sensitive topic. He didn't believe Willow, and he wasn't sure how she felt about it. Willow listened, feeling uncomfortable, but she couldn't explain why. The only thing that moved her was the money. To make sure Makoto's business succeeded, she hadn't told him that the bride price hadn't been paid yet. During the store's operations, he used the best materials and equipment for the promotional effect. These would all be paid for with the bride price after the wedding. The shop couldn't afford any issues, so she had to endure. After the wedding, she would explain everything to everyone. It's not about George, it's that I feel uncomfortable. I'm about to get married. This situation is deceiving to everyone. The customer base should depend on the quality of the store's products, not this. She frowned and looked at Makoto. I really don't understand why you didn't refuse when they were making a fuss. Willow felt frustrated. She had always treated Makoto like a brother, but now everything had turned into this. Makoto's heart tightened, and he explained pitifully. It's my first time opening a store. I was too nervous. I'm sorry. I'll be more careful in the future. His throat tightened, as if he were genuinely shaken. Willow, please help me just this last time. Once things get better, I'll make sure you won't have to suffer anymore. He grabbed Willow's hand, pleading. The shop is at a critical stage. If I tell the truth, customers will doubt my character. How can the store continue then? Makoto choked up. My family was poor when I was a child. I earned only a little by selling vegetables. If it weren't for your help, I wouldn't even have had a chance to go to school. You didn't have the love of your parents growing up. You should understand how I feel. If I don't try hard now, Willow paused, her body stiffening. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and said, then we'll clear things up after my wedding. I don't want people to misunderstand too much. Chapter 11. Willow's mind was a mess. Makoto's words instantly reminded her of George. She remembered the time when he misunderstood that the vegetables were from her family. On that snowy day, he sent her to the hotel to rest while he stayed behind, selling vegetables by himself. It was that day that she finally realized how important money was. She picked up her phone and dialed George's number, but the cold, Mechanical voice on the other end told her the phone was off. Willow's heart sank. George must be angry. She jumped out of bed, searching on her phone for ways to cheer up an upset boyfriend. Yao Yao. The game console you bought for your old man way last time. Which brand was it from? Take me to get one, will you? Makoto's new shop just opened, and now you have time to play games. It's for George. I haven't given him any gifts yet. Do you really think George would like this? Yao Yao's first reaction was to suggest the one Makoto bought, but Willow's words still left her incredulous. However, thinking about how George had spoiled Willow, maybe he would actually like it. After all, in his eyes, Willow's every action was perfect. But Willow didn't know that the effort she put into pleasing him wasn't even something I cared about anymore. The next day, I arrived early at the airport, quietly waiting for the girl I hadn't seen in 4 years. Through the crowd, a proud figure slowly walked toward me. Her eyes were sharp, scanning everyone at the reception area, and then her deep, cold gaze fixed on me. Before her face gradually lit up with a smile, I narrowed my eyes. This familiar, cool aura, was that Anna? After all these years, she had transformed from a sweet little girl into an icy beauty. Anna threw her suitcase in front of me. Let's go. Her voice was hoarse, tinged with a bit of fatigue, but the moment she saw George, everything seemed to make sense. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Seeing that I hadn't followed her, Anna couldn't help but mumble. On her way back, she had practiced a lot, but according to her assistant, she was supposed to show off her mature side. It seemed George didn't like it at all. She couldn't help but furrow her brow. What did this man like about Willow? My gaze made her a little flustered, and Anna blushed. Hurry, I'm starving. I paused. Who would have thought? She was now a leader, yet she could still act so childishly. Fool, pretending to be a fairy, and still can't curb your appetite. Anna disagreed. Whether I'm a fairy or not, in front of my husband, I'm always a little princess. I smiled faintly. What did you just call me? Anna's face turned crimson, reaching all the way down to her neck. She stammered. What did I say? Hurry. My young lady's schedule is busy. Anna grabbed my wrist, her eyes avoiding mine, pulling me toward the exit. Being able to marry me. Young lady, you're lucky. I almost couldn't hold in my laugh. I had truly gotten a big bargain. This little girl had no clue about love. She was so focused on her career, and when she reached the right age for marriage, her strength intimidated many men. I heard she had been set up a few times, but it never worked out. In the sunlight, our hands gradually intertwined. After dinner, we returned to the hotel to discuss the wedding details with the planner. We ended up overturning all the previous plans and switched from a Western-style wedding to a Chinese one. Just as the staff was about to collapse, Anna pouted and looked at me, worried that I might think she was being too picky. Change it. Money isn't an issue. What's most important is that the bride likes it. It was already a sacrifice for her to marry me, and now I just wanted to make sure she was happy. Anna had expected George to talk her out of being too picky, but I shut her down with my reply. Will it be too much trouble? She stuck out her tongue. I smiled, a faint smile curling on my lips. She was still the same little girl from back then. Chapter 12. I reached out to help her smooth the stray hairs from her forehead and said, You can't regret marrying me. Anna blushed deeply and replied, What are you talking about? I looked at the woman nestled in my arms and said confidently, Let's go with this. Double the cost. Upon hearing this, the designer's eyes brightened, and all the frustration vanished. Just then, a commotion was heard at the door. Makoto, with his arm draped around Willow's shoulders, walked in. He had a smile on his face as he inquired with the staff, Do you have any suitable packages for an 80th birthday celebration? It's often said that a man's woman is his best label when he goes out. The staff, seeing Willow's attire, immediately understood that Makoto wasn't short on money. This month's performance would depend on these 2 orders. Thinking this, the staff eagerly approached and began to introduce. You two really have great taste choosing parfait. Our restaurant, Hongyun, symbolizes long life and fortune, and every detail is filled with blessings, which is why it's so loved by the elderly. In addition, we also have themed options like Fulusho and Nian Nian Jinri. Let me show you the pictures. They chatted as they walked, and Makoto, clearly enjoying the attention, walked with a light step. If his parents hadn't told him that after earning money from the shop, he should throw a big celebration for his grandfather's birthday, he might never have stepped foot in such a high-end place. Willow seemed to have not heard the staff's words. She sat there numbly, letting Makoto talk to the staff. By chance, I saw this scene from across the room. The 2 groups were separated by a screen, but Makoto's tone was so obvious that I recognized him as soon as they walked in. I hadn't expected their relationship to have progressed to the point where they could interfere in each other's family matters. And as for the wedding details, Willow hadn't once asked a single question. How laughable. Fortunately, I didn't care anymore. I simply turned my head, pretending nothing had happened. but the downcast mood was still noticeable, and Anna, noticing it, immediately saw the source of my unease. He really still liked that woman. What? Having second thoughts, want to call off the wedding? She suddenly jumped up. That wouldn't happen to be your shameless ex-girlfriend, would it? She instinctively felt that this wasn't a good person. I shook my head and hurriedly tried to calm her down. My flustered appearance only made Anna even angrier. If she had any boundaries, would you have anything to do with her? I suppressed my displeasure and tried to joke with Anna nonchalantly, but we had grown up together, and she could see right through my emotions. However, she didn't press the issue and instead proudly raised her chin. If you're lucky enough to marry me, just enjoy it. Of course, Miss Sue, to marry you, I've already made sure my ancestors in the Wang family have pulled every string they could. The banter didn't affect the people on the other side of the screen at all. Makoto pointed at the theme photos in the album and asked Willow, "Willow, what do you think of this one?" Willow snapped back to attention and glanced at his finger, nodding indifferently. Her eyes were hollow, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of her teacup. Makoto's expression stiffened as well. What does she mean by this? She doesn't have the money to pay for the expensive design fees, so she's subtly showing her the finished product instead. Yesterday, his parents had pulled them into their room, saying that now their circumstances had improved. They wanted to settle the marriage during his grandfather's 80th birthday. His parents had worked hard all their lives, and now that their son's career and marriage were both going well, this was their chance to gain both face and respect in one go. But Willow wasn't even his girlfriend, and this wasn't about a successful career. The money spent recently was all from the pocket money George had given Willow in the past. Seeing that she was about to tell the truth, Makoto quickly pulled her back, his face full of sadness as he looked at his mother's silver hair. "Mom and Dad, you've worked hard all these years. It's only right that I'm filial to you. The wedding is a bit rushed, but we must celebrate Grandpa's 80th birthday properly." Ito's parents hesitated at first, but seeing Willow, who seemed so different now, they knew they couldn't push the wedding any further. They decided they would think of another way later. "Willow, you and Makoto grew up together, and Auntie is also eager to have grandchildren. You won't blame me, will you?" Ito's mother grabbed her hand, holding it gently, and patted it with a heartbroken expression. Willow's soft skin was scratched painfully, and the woman who had suffered her entire life couldn't bear to make her sad. Besides, Makoto cared most about Willow. The words Willow was about to say were swallowed back. Looking at her expectant gaze, she forced a smile and nodded. "No, Auntie, I won't blame you." Her plan to visit George the next day was once again delayed. Willow spent the whole day with her phone in hand, but she still hadn't received any message from the person she was waiting for. George must be angry. Her certainty only deepened her unease. She regretted it deeply. How had she agreed to help Makoto open the shop in the first place? At which point had she gone wrong, leading to the situation now spiraling out of control? With that thought, Willow's already heavy heart felt like it was being twisted even tighter. Chapter 13. George, brother, why did you choose this place? On the other side, Anna's seemingly casual question brought my thoughts back. I didn't think much of it and answered offhandedly. "David recommended it. Said it's the best in a city." Anna nodded, seemingly in agreement. As long as it wasn't somewhere Willow picked, she didn't care. Even though she knew that woman didn't have much to offer, she couldn't approve of her taste. I suddenly thought of something and looked down, asking, "Should we change to another place?" Anna shook her head, setting aside the fact that this was one of the best in a city. What had the staff done wrong? After working so hard, they were losing this order for a person who didn't matter. She wasn't some saint, but the designer had communicated with George for so long and must have understood what he wanted. She wanted George to have no regrets about his wedding banquet. Just as the staff's anxiety had started to ease, a voice suddenly rang out. "George, are you here to discuss the wedding details? Who is this lady? She looks familiar." Upon hearing this, the two of them exchanged a glance. Of course, the thing they were most bothered by was exactly what happened. Makoto's exclamation couldn't hide the schadenfreude in his tone. If Willow knew George was with another woman behind her back, she'd probably be angry for a long time. When they didn't meet, wouldn't that be his opportunity? Pretending to be concerned for Willow's sake, he turned to me and angrily said, "George, how could you bring another woman into the discussion of your wedding with Willow?" He glanced at the album in Anna's hands and said in an unsatisfied tone, "Willow likes Western-style weddings. Her childhood dream was to wear the most gorgeous wedding dress. Have you even considered her feelings?" Sure enough, when Willow saw what was on the table, she became furious. She had been thinking about him for the past few days, but now she found out he was picking out things he didn't like with another woman. He had even forgotten her most basic preferences, and that woman was practically half in George's arms. "George." Willow's voice was gritted with anger, and she really felt betrayed by his trust. Hearing Willow's voice, I finally turned around and met her gaze. Her face was dark, and she slammed her hand on the table, saying, Look at what you've picked out. She was holding back her anger as she asked, almost making Anna laugh from the side. I don't like it. Change it. Change everything. She tightly gripped my arm, her face flushed with rage. What is your relationship with her? Is that why you didn't respond to my messages these past few days? Because you've been with this woman? Willow's eyes were red. In 8 years, I had never seen her like this. If this had been before, I would have held her and comforted her. But now, I pulled my arm free from her grip and coldly said, the person who has the least right to question me is you. Since you've seen everything, I'll say it plainly. Willow, let's break up. The Wang family doesn't need a flirtatious woman as a daughter-in-law. Willow hastily explained. I didn't. Makoto and I are just good friends. Good friends? How good of friends? Good enough to show affection in front of everyone. Good enough to lie on the bed and do activities together. Chapter 14. Willow slightly parted her lips, frozen for a long while. How could he think of her like that? She seemed to have endured a lot of grievances. She reached out to hug my waist, but Anna sharply pushed her away. Throwing yourself at another man in front of your current boyfriend. Miss Liu, that's not very ladylike, is it? Anna took a step forward, linking her arm with mine, and looked at Willow with disdain. Miss Liu, you've been flaunting your love with your so-called childhood friend, making a big fuss, but you don't allow George brother to have any other women around. You shouldn't be so harsh. She covered her mouth and giggled, every word making Willow's face burn with humiliation. Willow wanted to explain, but when she saw me, she realized that any words now would be pointless. I told you before, I'm just good friends with Makoto. I only wanted to help him. She tried to struggle, but Anna didn't give her a chance. I was done with this argument, shaking my head, almost laughing out loud. Help him? How are you helping? He has no money. You give him money. He has no one. You give him someone. He has no wife. You sleep with him. Willow, don't push your luck. My gaze fell on Makoto, scrutinizing him from head to toe. Do you even have a say in the Ito family matters? Willow wanted to explain that they were just good friends, but her words were too weak. She finally managed to speak. George, Uncle and Aunt have watched me grow up. I didn't want to hear any more. So I grabbed Anna's hand and turned to leave. Willow, I'm really tired. Willow's pupils widened, her voice trembling with urgency. George, She wanted to chase after us, but Makoto grabbed her arm. Willow, Grandpa's 80th birthday. He's already 80. Makoto's voice cracked, and Willow weakly collapsed onto the sofa, helplessly watching us leave. Her concern for leaving that man was obvious to everyone present, and the way people looked at Makoto changed. Makoto lowered his gaze awkwardly. I had known Willow first. We had grown up together. Why did he get to be with her in the end? Was it just because he had money that he could do whatever he wanted? He clenched his fist, blaming everything on George. In the park, Anna and I leaned on a bench, watching the silent conversation between the wind and the lake. My eyes were empty, and Anna, seeing me trying to act calm, had a look of sympathy. George brother, don't think about it anymore. If she really loved you, how could she not care about your feelings? Instead of exhausting yourself over someone who doesn't love you, it's better to enjoy the present. She shook my arm gently and comforted me in a soft voice. I forced a smile and stubbornly said, I'm fine. But how could I deceive Anna, who was fully focused on me? A child ran past us, holding a balloon, and tripped right in front of us. Anna was about to help when a smug man's voice reached our ears. George, what a coincidence. Are you two taking a stroll here as well? Makoto had his arm around Willow's shoulder, standing in front of the child with a smug grin. Don't they need to work, both poor and always wandering around? I felt disgusted, and the hatred in my heart only grew. Since we've met, do you want to take a boat ride? Willow's loved it since she was little. Without waiting for a response, he stepped forward and called the staff to open a ticket. Just as Anna was about to refuse, she saw the staff eagerly running over to open the door. Business was hard, and she wanted to see what this man was up to. Willow's face was still dark, and she followed inside. Strolling in the park was something George and Willow used to do during university. Her gaze turned cold as she stared at Anna. What exactly was the relationship between George and this woman? Anna, who had been in a position of power for so long, wasn't bothered by Willow's resentment. She chuckled lightly and said, Miss Liu, we're all adults now. Don't you understand? No one will wait for you to come back forever. Willow, be careful. Chapter 15. Willow's face flushed red, and just as she was about to retort, she saw Makoto's hand reaching out, intending to help her. Willow looked at me with a troubled expression. Help me. Her voice was stiff, but there was an unusual pleading tone to it. If it were before, I would have been overjoyed. After all, even though everything Willow had was bought by me, her reliance on me had always been so minimal. But now, I was tired of her touch. I pretended I hadn't heard and took a large step back, distancing myself. Willow's hand hung in the air, frozen, unable to move forward or retreat. Makoto, on the other hand, had a look of resentment. He awkwardly withdrew his hand, silently blaming George for the situation. He then reached out to Willow again, saying, "Willow, come here, I'll catch you." Willow furrowed her brow, glanced at me, and then, seeing Makoto's outstretched hand, she reluctantly raised her hand and shifted her focus. The lake's surface was calm, but Willow pretended to be afraid, gasping every now and then. Even so, I didn't look at her. I even distanced myself deliberately, as I feared she might harm Anna. Willow's heart sank. Makoto noticed Willow's attempts to win George over, and he was almost consumed by jealousy. He racked his brain, trying to find topics to keep Willow's attention. "Miss Lu, why don't you check on the mood of the person next to you? He seems a bit anxious." As soon as Anna's mocking words left her mouth, the four of us on the boat fell into an awkward silence. After 2 seconds, Willow suddenly looked up, her voice cold. "Who are you? What does our relationship have to do with you?" "My relationship with George brother is the same as yours with him." Anna raised an eyebrow, watching as Willow's face visibly paled. Unable to hold back, she chuckled lightly. "Didn't you say you and he were childhood friends? Miss Lu, why are you so nervous?" "I'm also George brother's childhood friend. I can't bear to see him suffer. Am I wrong?" Anna covered her mouth, unfazed, and even looked at her provocatively. This was far more interesting than playing the professional, composed CEO at work. I watched the two women glaring at each other and felt a headache coming on. "All right." I stood up abruptly. "Let's dock." Seeing that I was genuinely trying to get away, Willow panicked. She grabbed my hand and urgently said, "Wait, just wait. The business at the store is picking up. If Makoto doesn't need this money, I can. I really can't help it. I've known Makoto since we were kids. He's protected me all my life. How could I betray him? The wedding is almost here. I'll give you an explanation then. I know you're angry because I didn't consider your feelings. So I've been so close to this woman. After we get married, I'll let you make all the decisions about the family." I found it laughable. This was her greatest concession. To not betray Makoto, she naturally had to betray me. I turned to look back, a smile tugging at my lips, and replied, "Fine, I'll wait for you." With that, I ignored Willow, who was struggling to stay steady by the boat, and broke free from her grasp. Willow stumbled 2 steps, staring blankly as I walked away, hand in hand with Anna. "All right, we've walked far enough." Anna, fuming, pulled her hand out of mine. Was I just using myself to irritate that woman? She couldn't help but complain. "If you like her, why not just be together? If you don't love her anymore, why not just make it clear? What do you think I am?" Su family's pampered princess had never endured such humiliation. I walked up to her, pulling her into an embrace. I buried my chin in her shoulder, inhaling deeply. 8 years of time. How many beautiful moments have I missed? They treated me like a fool, but why should I let them go? I want them to pay the price and understand what it feels like to be played. I'm really looking forward to seeing their faces when they realize I won't use money to settle their debts. Chapter 16. Anna hugged me back, looking up at me. We just stared at each other quietly. After a moment, I spoke. "What about you? Would you regret marrying me?" I could guarantee that I would be completely devoted to her afterward, but would she really be willing to marry without love? Clearly, Anna was also caught off guard by this question. She frowned slightly and asked, "Why would I regret it?" In terms of looks, education, and family background, George was her perfect match. Seeing her expression, I couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Could this girl really still not get it? What if she married me impulsively and regretted it later? Thinking of this, I looked at Anna with an apologetic expression. "Anna, have you never been in a relationship while you were abroad?" After asking, I stared at her intently, afraid of missing any detail, but she wasn't used to such closeness and was startled, quickly pushing me away. Her face turned bright red, all the way to her neck. "Oh, of course I've been in relationships. There were so many men chasing after me, all the way to France." She mentally clicked her tongue. Unrequited love was still love, right? Hearing this, I immediately felt relieved. I just didn't know which young man had captured her heart. I couldn't help but feel a little melancholic. I rubbed Anna's head. "It's okay. If you meet someone you like in the future, go after them boldly. I'll take care of the rest." I would do my best to give Anna an exit if she needed it. Anna froze for a moment, clearly stunned by my words. Was I encouraging her to cheat after marriage? Let's not even talk about what her parents would do to her. She wouldn't agree to that herself. "George, I've decided to marry you, and I never thought about leaving myself an escape route. Second marriage, are you still holding feelings for that woman?" No, Anna. Calm down. I was wrong. Calm down. The next day, as soon as I arrived at the office, Anna called me over. "I'm busy with work here." "Anna, why am I being dragged into the Su family's meeting?" Anna, wearing a beige women's suit, stood tall in the center of the lobby, exuding an aura of composure and professionalism. She was a far cry from the shy little girl who had been in my arms the day before. Anna adjusted her glasses and said, "Do you think being the Su family's son-in-law is easy? Today, I'm letting you get used to it in advance, since it will all be your responsibility later." Hearing Anna's words, I tried to remember if I had made any significant promises. Seeing my silence, Anna smiled and mumbled, "You said you wanted me to use the entire Su family as dowry. When did I say that?" "I think I actually did say that. When we were kids, a few of us played house. Anna insisted on being my little wife, and I said, I'm going to marry the richest woman in the world, and I'll need the most dowry." At that time, Anna silently gave up her spot as the bride and handed it to the girl who could bring me snacks. I rubbed my forehead, surprised that my younger self knew how to enjoy the good life, but now, as an adult, I had become the simp. Snapping back to the present, I looked at Anna, who had grown from a little girl into a young woman, and my heart was full of anticipation. After all these years, she still remembered the words I said. I couldn't help but feel moved. In the distance, Makoto, who had come to deliver something, saw this scene, and the resentment in his heart deepened. Why did George get to have so much, while he had to live like this, like a kept man with no dignity? In recent days, he had been asking Willow for money, but had been turned down reluctantly. He had to go out and deliver goods himself, and now, he unexpectedly saw this scene. "Willow, I'm short 2 orders of afternoon tea from Fireworks World. Can you help me bring them over?" On the other side, Willow, who was at home worrying about her bank card balance, couldn't care less. This month's allowance hadn't come from George, and her savings were running low. Hearing Makoto's call only made her more frustrated. She replied, "I don't have time right now." Chapter 17. Just as Willow was about to hang up the phone, Makoto urgently spoke. "I saw George. He's with that woman, Anna, acting all close. I'm coming over now." Before he could finish, Willow quickly hung up the phone. Makoto's face darkened even more. Why was it that after chasing her for so many years, he never got a response, but George could capture her every thought? Within 2 minutes, Willow appeared in front of him, breathing heavily. She glanced impatiently at Makoto. "Where are they?" Makoto pointed to the 2 who were about to hold hands and leave. Willow immediately ran over. Makoto, uneasy, quickly followed. When she saw Anna linking her arm with mine, Willow's face immediately darkened. Anna was also unhappy. Why was she everywhere? She muttered to herself, planning to notify HR to change the venue for afternoon tea. Before either of them could speak, the elevator made a ding sound. The 4 of us entered the elevator simultaneously. Anna immediately pressed the top floor button, then gave Willow a mocking glance. Unlike other office buildings, this entire building belonged to Fireworks, and the top floor was solely reserved for the CEO's private area. The atmosphere in the elevator became instantly awkward. I was curious as well. She came to deliver food but didn't even check the address, or she could have just called. As I was pondering, I felt warmth at my fingertips. Anna's hand was already in mine. We locked eyes, and the tension between us was palpable. Willow's hatred was almost enough to pierce through our backs. "Miss Liu, are you also coming with us to the CEO's office?" "I don't eat this stuff, madam. You might want to double-check the address. You wouldn't want to deliver it to the wrong place." Willow tried to step forward and argue with Anna but was pulled back by Makoto. "Willow, we're going to the 27th floor. The elevator reached the 27th floor after 2 minutes. Every time Willow tried to talk to me, Makoto would intentionally or unintentionally block her. "Good afternoon, CEO." Upon seeing the people in the elevator, the staff was caught between a rock and a hard place. They hesitated for a moment before walking into the elevator with a stiff expression. This kind of situation wasn't uncommon. "Is this our future boss? Truly a match made in heaven." Both of them only gave a faint smile. Willow's face turned purple with embarrassment as she heard the compliments. She had always thought that George was still angry about her situation with Makoto. She had never considered that what she was seeing now was real. After what seemed like an eternity, the elevator finally stopped at the top floor, but Willow made no move to step out. The elevator doors slowly opened, revealing an office adorned with dark wood elements. From the large artistic paintings to the finely crafted ornaments, every piece exuded a sense of sophistication, reflecting the owner's wisdom and wealth. I felt nothing. Holding Anna's hand as we walked straight toward the desk, Willow snapped out of her daze and, stepping forward, tried to suppress her anger. "George, you're about to get married. Can you please keep some distance from this woman?" Hearing Willow's question, I couldn't help but laugh. "You've been making out with Makoto in front of everyone, and we're still being too subtle compared to you." I glanced at the still shocked Makoto, a slight sneer forming on my lips. Willow was speechless. She knew deep down that she had no right to say anything. Makoto, coming from a poor family, had never encountered such scenes before. After a long pause, he finally came back to his senses and, with a guilty look, apologized. George, I'm sorry. At that time, I had no choice. Unlike George, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, there were so many people egging us on. I got nervous. I didn't mean to kiss Willow. His voice trembled, and his cautious demeanor made Anna snicker. So being poor makes it okay for him. Chapter 18. I scoffed coldly, the curve of my lips filled with disdain, like a knife wrapped in poison. Nervous. It seems like you're quite enjoying it. If I didn't know better, I'd think the person getting married was you too. Makoto's face stiffened, unable to find a retort, and he turned to Willow with a look of grievance. Willow took a deep breath, her gaze landing on Anna's face. She looked around at the luxurious office and suddenly said, "Are you free tomorrow? Let's go to the hotel and confirm the wedding details. You've been working too hard. I'll handle the rest." Anna's expression darkened instantly, and her eyes turned cold as she looked at me. Beside her, Makoto's lips tightened, and his fists clenched so tightly that his veins were about to pop. I suddenly laughed. The details are pretty much finalized. A lot of things are custom-made, and it's too late to make changes now. She seemed to think the wedding was simple, as if she didn't care about what she had done during that time, but it didn't matter. No worries. If there are any issues, just have the studio contact me. As I casually waved my hand and returned to the paperwork, Willow's unease grew. Staff members came and went in the office, and they gave us strange, curious looks. Finally, the two of them had no choice but to leave. Once they were gone, the office returned to quiet, and I was snapped back to my thoughts by a slap. It was Anna. "You're not really going to let Willow handle our wedding, are you?" Her voice was muffled, tinged with some dissatisfaction. I chuckled softly. How could I? Letting the staff handle a few things is just a matter of saying the word. A few more days, and I don't want her to notice too much. I paused, raising an eyebrow at Anna. Did you notice how pale Makoto looked? I bet he's starting to realize Willow hasn't gotten any money from me in a while. I really want to see the expression on his face when he finds out. Anna sighed in relief, looking up at me. Since you're letting me watch the show, I won't hold it against you. Willow had spent the whole day at Y. trying to make sure everything was ready for George. The next day, she headed straight to the studio. This also meant she was completely unaware that she would never set foot in the Wong family home again. Willow believed that she had seen a lot of the world with George, but the thought of handling an entire wedding by herself still made her nervous. But marrying into a rich family, she pushed down the anxiety in her heart, feeling a vague sense of anticipation. As soon as she got out of the car, Willow hurried toward the studio's door. Just as her fingers brushed the door handle, her phone rang. It was Makoto. Seeing his name on the screen, she didn't hesitate and immediately answered the call. Willow. Makoto's voice was laced with suppressed pain, and the intermittent gasps made Willow nervous. Madam. The boss hurt his hand while working with the machines. It's bleeding a lot. You need to come back right away. Willow's heart sank. Seeing that Makoto wasn't speaking, the anxious staff quickly grabbed the phone and described the situation. On the other end, the voice continued in a panicked tone. There's so much blood. He needs to go to the hospital right away, or he might lose the finger. But Willow hesitated, looking through the glass door at George, who was chatting cheerfully with the staff. No matter what, he still showed up. The seriousness in Willow's face softened slightly. Willow, I know you have something important to do today. Go ahead. I'll be fine. Oh, come on. How can you be fine? Look at your forehead. You're sweating from the pain, and you say you're fine. The staff's voice came again. Next time, I'll make sure not to let you down. Willow hesitated for a moment, then chose to turn and leave. She believed George would understand. Chapter 19. The taxi driver, seeing the passenger who had just gotten out return to the car, had the expression of someone whose hope had just been dashed. Had she been dumped? Take me to the second hospital. She spoke with no energy, staring blankly out the window. I, unaware of her sorrow, watched her walk away, and suddenly, I felt emotionally drained, as though even pretending to care was unnecessary. I sneered and thought, let it be. I grabbed my things, turning without looking back, and had barely walked a few steps when someone from inside the studio came out. Seeing me get in the car, she let out a heavy sigh of relief. Anna turned to pat the designer's shoulder, affirming her skills, but saw the designer's pale face and asked, "What's wrong?" The silence in the air became unbearable. Anna realized something was off and slowly turned around, only to see George standing right behind her. Her heart skipped a beat. "George, brother. How did you come back?" I rolled my eyes, pointing at the sofa. I forgot my bag. Her eyes hadn't left me since she came in. Did she really think I didn't know anything? I was shopping with my friend. Her eyes shifted as she hurriedly explained. I looked behind her, but there was no one there. Anna quickly grabbed the designer's hand and said, "Friend, really?" My skeptical look made the designer nervous, and under the dual pressure, The designer hesitated and nodded. Yes. I think so. Anna felt uncomfortable being stared at like that, her gaze drifting. I just wanted to see what you two were talking about. I chuckled lightly, and the heavy atmosphere from before instantly lifted. Anna looked at my smile, knowing the matter had been glossed over, and happily grabbed my hand. Let's go. There are many new designs at the South District Jewelry Store. Let's take a look. My mom always says, the more a girl's dowry, the more confident she feels when she gets married. Willow rushed to the hospital, where Makoto's hand had been bandaged. The gauze was soaked in blood and medicine, looking alarming. Luckily you came in time, or this thumb would have been lost. You need to be more careful when working with it. This hand can't be used for heavy tasks anymore, the doctor said gravely, holding the medical records. How did this happen? Willow's mind buzzed. She thought Makoto might be trying to deceive her into coming back, thinking it was just a serious scratch, but the doctor's words made her take it more seriously. Makoto, sitting next to her, visibly relaxed. There was some debris in the baking machine. We all said we'd wait for you to come back, but Makoto insisted that you were busy today. He went on his own. We're not sure if it was a machine malfunction or something else, but it ended up like this. Willow's head was spinning. She hadn't realized she'd been blamed for this accident. She now blamed herself for not handling things better before leaving. The store manager anxiously explained how hard things were at the shop. Makoto glanced at him out of the corner of his eye, secretly relieved to get Willow to bring in more money. He had let her take charge of buying second-hand equipment. He hadn't expected it to end up benefiting him like this. Despite her high status with George, Willow had always been a simp in his eyes, doing all the dirty work without complaint. That's enough. After the manager had said the same thing for the third time, Makoto finally interrupted him. Willow has her own business to handle. She can't be running around taking care of us. If we can't even handle a little accident, maybe I'll just shut down the shop. It was just a minor accident. It didn't need to turn into a big deal. But hearing Makoto's words made Willow breathe a sigh of relief. Yeah, if the shop didn't work out, Makoto could always find another job and still pursue his dreams. She could marry George with peace of mind. But Willow's mind was conflicted. She had invested millions into this shop, and the deadline for the final payment was approaching. She wasn't sure if the shop could be sold off without a loss. Upon hearing the shop might close, the manager was the first to panic. He grabbed Makoto's hand. Makoto, you can't do this. Considering our relationship, I gave up a high-paying job to follow you. Now you're saying you're closing. I've got a family to feed. Madam, the manager turned to Willow, his voice pleading. You know how much Makoto loves you. If he's made a mistake, I apologize on his behalf. Please give him another chance. Chapter 20. Seeing Willow standing there in a daze, the store manager's eyes lit up, as if he had found a lifeline. He stared at Willow with hopeful eyes. Madam, please say something. You and Makoto are childhood friends. You grew up together. How can you just stand by and watch him lose his dream? Looking at the store manager's tearful expression, Willow couldn't help but feel conflicted. Even beyond this being Makoto's dream, what about the staff? Over a dozen employees were facing unemployment right after they'd started their jobs. Seeing Willow hesitate, the light in the manager's eyes gradually faded. She opened her mouth to refuse but couldn't bring herself to speak. But being with Makoto had always been a lie. How could she allow that lie to continue? At first, she was just helping Makoto while enjoying the envious, ambiguous relationship. Willow bit her lip and stood silently. The manager's disappointed gaze flashed briefly, and he said, I'm sorry, I've overstepped. All right, you should go back now. The shop still needs you to manage it. Makoto looked up at Willow and forced a calm tone. We're fine. We're not breaking up. Don't worry. Go back and get to work. Makoto's pleading gaze forced Willow to swallow her refusal. Willow, I know you're mad at me, but can we wait until Grandpa's birthday is over to talk? My parents have worked hard all their lives, and it's their only chance to stand tall. I'm begging you. Makoto, who had always been so proud, lowered his pride and begged in front of the store manager. Willow tightly shut her eyes, finally giving in. This is the last time. The next morning, Makoto took Willow to the countryside to pick up the relatives. Seeing Willow's awkwardness with these relatives, he explained that it was to reassure his family. Throughout the journey, Willow was absent-minded. Even the young woman accompanying them couldn't bear to watch and pushed her toward Makoto. Little aunt, you should stay closer to your uncle. If you didn't know better, you'd think you're his wife. The car burst into laughter, with someone joking. She's been trailing behind Makoto since she was little, and now she's finally learning to be shy. Although it was true, the comment still darkened Makoto's face. Neither of them could really say who was clinging to whom, but it was an unspoken, ambiguous relationship. Now, they were meeting the family as an engaged couple, and Makoto felt that it was unreal. God knew how jealous he was when he found out Willow was with George, though Willow had hinted at her feelings for him in the past. His family background was what it was, and the Liu family wouldn't approve. Their love had ended before it even began. Now, To have a chance to rekindle things, with such a large dowry, it was something Makoto had never dared to imagine. Thinking about the manager's advice, his gaze turned even more determined. As long as he got what he wanted, it would all be worth it. After the party ended, Makoto posted a family photo on his WeChat Moments with the caption, "Finally, the family is complete." When David saw the photo on WeChat, he was in disbelief. At that moment, he wished he were blind. He immediately forwarded the photo to me. "Has your breakup been finalized? Why didn't anyone tell me?" I was receiving the message while having tea with Sue's father. Anna was in the kitchen with her mother, laughing from time to time. "I'm telling you now, and don't forget to come to the wedding on the 8th. Come to the wedding. You're not even a bit worried. They've already met the parents, and you're acting so calm." I sneered. "Who told you the bride is her?" After saying that, I threw my phone aside. Making someone else's wedding dress. It was just because I wouldn't ask Willow to return the money she owed me from before. Who's playing whom? It's still unclear. Chapter 21. Seeing the harmonious 4 generations together, Grandpa Ito smiled with contentment. He clasped Makoto and Willow's hands together and said, "You two should hurry up and give me a great-great-grandson. That's the most important thing." Makoto smiled and nodded, while Willow awkwardly helped take care of the guests. When they were kids, Willow's family had been biased toward sons, and Makoto had been poor, unable to afford meals. The two of them often shared one meal at school to save money. What girl doesn't have a little crush, and what boy isn't full of affection? Over time, their relationship became increasingly ambiguous. The Liu family had hoped she could marry well, so they transferred her to another school and tried to break the bond between them. When they finally met again, Liu could no longer control the feelings of mutual understanding they once had. Now, being able to help him as the mistress of his life was like making up for the regret of not marrying him. After sending the relatives back to their hometown, Willow found Makoto. "We can't continue like this." Makoto's face stiffened, disbelief written across his face. "Willow, how can you say that? You promised Grandpa." Makoto's voice trembled. "You're right. How could I ever compare to George? How could I expect you to let go of him and be with me?" "That's not it." Willow looked at him, heart aching. "But what about George? If she didn't return, he would be heartbroken." "Makoto, I agreed to act like your girlfriend to make your parents and relatives happy. Grandpa's birthday party is over, and the store is running smoothly. We really don't need to keep this up anymore." Her voice was cold, and the words made Makoto's eyes immediately redden. "Willow, you can't do this. They're preparing to use their savings for your bride price. If you break up now, how will my parents face the village?" Makoto grabbed Willow's arm, pleading desperately. Willow, however, grew increasingly impatient. How much longer would this drag on? It shouldn't be like this. She was about to marry into a wealthy family and become a rich wife. "You know I'm about to get married. How long do you expect me to wait to be clear about this? Or is this all part of your plan from the start?" Willow narrowed her eyes, staring at him, afraid of missing any detail. "How can you think of me like that?" Makoto, startled by her gaze, felt his jealousy toward George grow even more. It was clear that whenever it came to making a choice between the two, Willow's answer would always be George, but the money he expected to get was far less than he thought. Every time he mentioned it to Willow, she always had some excuse. Now wasn't the time to press her on this. He clenched his fist, realizing he'd have to find another way. Makoto finally pretended to compromise. He calmed down the agitated Willow, and the two of them parted ways, with Makoto turning to call his parents. As soon as Willow had the freedom to leave, she was ready to call George with this good news. But every time she dialed, the message kept saying the line was temporarily unavailable. George was still angry. Willow, filled with unease, returned to the villa, only to find she couldn't even get in. The excitement she had hoped to share with George was instantly doused, as though a cold bucket of water had been thrown over her. She, who had always been so high and mighty, didn't know how to appease him. Willow frowned deeply, hoping George's love for her hadn't faded. Willow walked from the front door to the back, the cold atmosphere making the security guards in the villa area wary of approaching her. "Laura." Willow saw a figure hurriedly walking ahead and called out uncertainly. The person tried to avoid her but was grabbed by Willow. "Miss Liu, please don't make things difficult for us servants. Mr. Wang had the password changed, and it was his order that you're not allowed to enter anymore. Didn't you get the packages? He had everything sent back to your old home." Willow's heart skipped a beat, and a bad feeling rushed through her. She frantically grabbed her phone and called her mother. "There are a few big packages. Some clothes and things. I thought you were getting married and cleaning out your wardrobe." Chapter 22. Laura watched Willow's face turn pale instantly, full of confusion. "Mr. Wang said you've broken up. If anyone in the villa district still wants to work here, they should have nothing to do with you." Laura looked at Willow with a hint of disdain. She thought she didn't know, But Willow had been so cozy with other men while her fiancé ignored her. It had been so long since they broke up, and only now did Willow find out. Willow felt as though she had been struck by lightning. Break up? When did that happen? Why didn't she know? Willow instinctively grabbed her phone, wanting to call George to explain. Then she remembered that his phone hadn't connected for a long time. He had blocked all her contact information. The cool image Willow had maintained for years crumbled in that instant. She immediately turned and hailed a taxi, heading straight for George's office. She had to find him. She needed to explain herself to George. George had loved her for so many years. With the wedding so close, how could he just break up with her like that? Willow's mind flashed back to all the times he treated her so well, with eyes full of love. How could he just leave like this? George must still be angry. This time, she would definitely make it up to him. Willow rushed out without a second thought, and Laura, seeing her for the first time in such a state, was stunned for a long moment before she regained her senses. In the taxi, she restlessly looked around, but then her eyes were drawn to a gift box on the driver's seat. It was a string of brand bracelets, worth around 30 to 40,000, but very valuable. George had given her an identical one during their senior year. That one had been accidentally scratched, leaving a deep dent. Thinking of this, Willow's pupils widened. Big brother, that bracelet. The driver scratched his head awkwardly. I bought it at a street sale. My wife likes to dress up, but we can't afford the big brands, so I got this one for her. He looked somewhat proud. How about it? Nice, right? Doesn't it look just like the real one? I've got great taste, picking jewelry and picking wives. Willow felt like she had fallen into an ice cave. Everyone could see how much George loved her. Over the years, they had argued, but even when he was disheartened, he never used money as an issue. But now, he had taken back the gift he gave her and even sold it at a street stall. Willow couldn't deceive herself any longer. Her throat tightened, and tears streamed down her face uncontrollably. The beautiful image she once had shattered, replaced by Anna's smiling face. The panic in her heart grew even more. Miss, you've arrived. Please take your belongings and get out of the car. Willow numbly walked toward George's office. When she saw George seriously organizing documents, she momentarily lost focus. George. I turned to see Willow standing there, looking lost. I couldn't help but silently regret that, with all that had been going on recently, I had told the security to not let anyone in. George. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Willow hoarsely spoke again. Is something wrong? For the first time, Willow heard no warmth in my voice. Her heart sank. I can't go back home. We're about to get married, but I can't even get in the door. She choked on her words, expressing her grievances. She had always firmly believed that George would be her final destination, even though she never thought she loved him that much. But now, separating this man who had clung to her for 8 years from her world was something she couldn't accept. I found her words amusing. Marriage? Willow, what kind of joke are you telling? You. What? Willow, your home is with Makoto now. The family photos have been taken. You're having second thoughts. That's going to be tricky. After all, you eagerly sent the dowry over. Can the Ito family even afford that? Willow's breath caught. 200,000 wasn't much to George, but to the Ito family, it was life-saving money. Chapter 23. But the family photo, wasn't it just to appease the elders of the Ito family? How could George possibly know? George, listen to me. I swear there's nothing between Makoto and me, and we've already made things clear. How clear? Did he give back your dowry? Or did Ito's parents bring the betrothal gifts to talk to your parents? We're both adults now. I'm the CEO of Wong's. And you, a woman who can't make up her mind between two men, who's playing both sides. Do you think you deserve to be with me? I didn't hesitate to crush Willow's dignity into the mud. She wanted to argue but felt weak all over. George, I admit I made mistakes, but Makoto and I grew up together. I couldn't just watch him fall like that. But the person I love the most is you. It's always been you. My disappointment made her panic completely, but I didn't care. Do you love me? Or do you love my money? Losing money, I'm sure, is harder for you to bear than losing me. Willow's throat felt like it was clogged. She wanted to argue, but after all these years, every cent she had was spent for my money. If I didn't want to, she wouldn't even have the most basic dignity. What was she so proud of? After a long pause, I set down what I was holding and said slowly, if you love money, you should at least be conscious of that. On the wedding day, I'll be watching your performance. I glanced at Willow in a teasing manner before signaling for security to take her away. The wedding day. That meant the wedding wasn't cancelled. A glimmer of light appeared in Willow's dimmed eyes. A flicker of hope ignited in her heart. She had to, absolutely had to, make things right with George. After Willow left, I leaned back in my office chair, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. Willow, when you were trampling on my face, you didn't think you'd ever be in this position, did you? On the wedding day, Willow arrived at the venue early, sitting alone in the hall, but no one told her where to go to get her makeup done. She tried to wait patiently, believing George would handle everything. But as time passed, her unease grew. By noon, George still hadn't arrived. Even though the wedding was still happening, she must have been the most pitiful bride in the world. By afternoon, George still hadn't shown up. Surrounded by Lou family relatives, Willow's palms grew cold. Lou's mother couldn't sit still any longer and stepped forward to question Willow. "What's going on? Didn't you say you were marrying George? Where is he?" The aunt followed with her own reprimand. "Nanan, you just went to Makoto's house a while ago, and you even took family photos with him, flaunting it to everyone. If you were going to marry him, we wouldn't have said anything. But now the man you're marrying isn't him. The groom is unreliable. And even if that's the case, you at least need to have a man." Exactly. Nowadays, society's more open. We're not old-fashioned. You can marry whoever you want, but don't mess with us. It's already noon, and the lucky hour is about to pass. Could it be the groom ran away? Everyone whispered among themselves, but their voices drilled into Willow's ears. She didn't dare say anything, just pressed her lips together and let them push her around. Makoto sat in the corner, watching Willow's helplessness. Aside from jealousy, he felt a bit of satisfaction from the revenge. "See, no one else wants to marry you but me." The 2,000 dowry he sent to the Liu family had been rejected by her parents, who swore that even if she didn't marry, she wouldn't go to his Ito family as a daughter-in-law. If it hadn't been for his parents sending photos of their daughter, showing that the two were truly in love, Liu's parents might not even have given him the chance to sit here. While the others were arguing, Makoto lowered his head, fiddling with his phone, when a major piece of news suddenly popped up. Why? Our World and Buchuang Yuntian merge. The name seemed familiar, and when he clicked on it, he saw George, dressed in a high-end suit, tightly embracing Anna's waist, strolling between the guests with a wine glass. Both of them had smiles they couldn't hide. The CEOs of both companies were marrying, and the event was naturally grand. Prominent figures from a city were all present, and the atmosphere of the wedding banquet was in sharp contrast to the one on his side. Chapter 24. George married someone else. Makoto instantly became energized. He grabbed his phone and rushed to Willow's side, his face filled with resentment as he said, "Willow, look. George is really a terrible person." He handed the phone to Willow, rolling up his sleeves as if he were about to help her vent her frustration. Upon hearing the news about George, Willow immediately turned back, snatching Makoto's phone. But when she saw the content on the screen, it was like being struck by lightning. The phone slipped from her hand, and she staggered 2 steps before Makoto caught her. The news about the merger. Why? Our CEO is Anna, the woman who had been coquettishly acting in front of George. Willow's face burned with anger. How could they treat her like this? Fuming, she ran toward the door. "Willow." Makoto was taken aback, immediately following her. Makoto had never expected Willow to lose control when she found out. After all, she had always maintained a cold, indifferent image in front of others. She got whatever she wanted, and people gave it to her without hesitation. But now, she was willing to throw away all her relatives for George, even the last bit of her dignity. On the other side, the outdoor wedding ceremony was at its most exciting moment, the exchange of rings. Anna, like a girl experiencing love for the first time, stood across from me, blushing. Her cute appearance made me steal glances at her every now and then. David, watching from the crowd, couldn't help but shake his head. Thank God the boss replaced her. Anna's assistant, Lisa, also looked at them with mixed feelings. Finally, she didn't have to listen to this girl talk about her naive crush anymore. Neither of them knew whether the boss would change, and they exchanged glances. David said, "Hey, your boss is so rich. Why doesn't he just get a young, handsome, obedient puppy? Look at George, working all the time. He's almost forgotten where home is." Well, it's because she likes him. When David heard that Anna liked George, he was stunned. Wasn't it said that this girl was still naive and was married off to George? He had been restless for a long time, trying to make up for it. When he first heard about it, he'd sighed, thinking, what a waste to put a flower in the manure. But now, who was really taking advantage of whom? David, looking a little pale, stared at the stage, but Lisa continued with enthusiasm. "You know, Anna has liked your CEO since she was 5, right? She used to put photos of him on her desk while wearing diapers." David was shocked. When she was little, she said the most was that she wanted to save up a huge dowry and marry George. But in college, that green tea girl beat her to it. She's held a grudge about it for a long time, thinking if she worked hard enough, she could catch up and study with George, so such a thing wouldn't have happened. "So, you've seen how hard she worked later on." David nodded dumbly, completely conquered by Anna. A good relationship drives progress, he thought. As the saying became more tangible, on the stage, the two shared a kiss, oblivious to the gossip of the two below. "All right, now the groom can kiss his bride." When the MC said this, I had already tightly embraced Anna in my arms. I vowed to give Anna happiness for the rest of my life. As the applause was winding down, an unexpected guest suddenly burst into the venue. It's all fake. They're just acting. George, I'm still waiting for you at the wedding. Why aren't you coming? Willow, with red-rimmed eyes, rushed into the venue. Her cheap wedding dress clashed with the grandeur of the event. But she didn't care. She ran up, pushing Anna aside, and grabbed my arm. Honey, let's go. Her voice trembled, full of pleading. Her eyes were fixed on me, as if trying to find some clue that this was just a dream. But there are no such dreams. Tears fell, and despair and fear overwhelmed her entire being. This was supposed to be her groom. This was supposed to be her big day. This was not how it was supposed to be. Chapter 25. Anna's face turned unpleasant, no longer showing the shy demeanor from earlier. She swiftly ordered someone to find the security. Then, turning, she picked up her diamond-studded wedding dress and walked step by step toward Willow. Willow, do you know what you look like right now? A shameless shrew. A crazy woman who will stop at nothing for wealth and status. Willow, look at you. You've ruined a good hand of cards just because of your arrogance. You look like a dog. Perhaps because money no longer mattered. Anna delivered the fatal blow in front of everyone. Look at your husband, whom you handed over so willingly. I really like him. She threw the red book with the steel seal in front of Willow, the sharp sting in her eyes. I indulgently pulled Anna into my arms. Little rascal, who carries their marriage certificate around like that? But Willow could no longer hear any of this. Her world was buzzing, and just as she was about to collapse to the ground, Makoto rushed over. Willow, let's go back. This place doesn't belong to you. Once again, Willow was hurt. She had already held the ticket to enter high society. Willow pushed Makoto away with force, then slowly shook her head in pain as she looked at me. She wanted to say she was wrong, that she would never contact this man again. But reality doesn't offer much in terms of second chances. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and my voice turned cold. Willow, since you helped Makoto plot against me, our paths have veered off course. Now, we're only growing further apart. 8 years. Consider it my redemption. From now on, we're no longer involved. My tone was resolute, and after speaking, I turned and left. Security, don't let just anyone in here anymore. Soon, the security arrived in droves, forcibly dragging the two of them out. The crowd murmured and pointed at them, with even more disdain when they recognized them as the bosses of our. Willow was thrown onto the street. Her wedding dress was torn, and dirt clung to it. Just as Anna had said, she looked as pitiful as a dog. Anna watched Willow disappear and finally let out a sigh of relief, pouting as she asked, George, you don't still like her, do you? I gave her a look. I have a cleanliness obsession. I always felt this silly girl had two faces, one for the outside and another for home. As night fell, Willow walked barefoot into the city, her dirty wedding dress attracting many stares, but she was completely oblivious, hiding by the roadside, drinking beer straight from the bottle, the empty bottles piled up by her feet, yet she couldn't numb herself. Makoto watched Willow in such a defeated state and hugged her tightly, feeling heartbroken. Willow, don't be afraid, you still have me. Upon hearing Makoto's voice, a moment of clarity flashed in Willow's eyes. She suddenly lifted her head, and an unopened bottle of beer exploded above Makoto's head. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, George would never have broken up with me. Willow laughed through her tears, feeling the absurdity of it all. They were supposed to be getting married, so how did it end up like this? They should have been in the villa, celebrating their wedding night. She should have had such a beautiful future. Scenes of George holding Anna flashed through her mind, making her want to kill. If she hadn't insisted on helping Makoto, would things have been different now? Willow blamed all the mistakes on Makoto, not realizing that if she hadn't been so immersed in a world of softness, Makoto wouldn't have been able to persuade her. Makoto instinctively pressed his forehead as the pain became unbearable, blood dripping down his face. When they arrived at the hospital, he was nearly about to pass out from the pain, while Willow had sobered up a little from the alcohol. Young people need to drink in moderation. You'll regret it when it leads to something serious, the attending doctor scolded while tending to the wound, then handed them the bill. Go pay the fees. Willow, feeling guilty, didn't want to leave Makoto alone for too long. She rushed back, but when she neared the medical office, she froze. How long are you going to keep pretending? This finger should have healed by now. There's no need to keep pretending anymore. The doctor focused on rewrapping his thumb with bandages. Chapter 26. Through the glass, Willow saw that Makoto's skin was intact, with no signs of any injury at all. She remembered that it had been said to be a crush fracture. Was he lying to her? Why? Recalling how their date with George had been ruined by Makoto's supposed injury, Willow's face darkened. She stormed into the room and slammed the door open. Makoto quickly stood up, his strong and calm demeanor returning. Willow, why are you back so soon? Your hand. Willow didn't answer. Instead, she stared intently at Makoto's hand. Makoto panicked inside, repeatedly waving his hands. The doctor said the bandages were soaked in blood, so they replaced them. I didn't know it was healing so well, but the bone still hurts. It'll take a while to fully recover. Is that so? Willow narrowed her eyes, not continuing the conversation. Afterward, she immediately accessed the surveillance footage from the operation room. She secretly contacted the store manager to get to the bottom of the truth. It turned out that Makoto had been so shameless, he had brought him over, then used his job to pressure him into lying for him. The footage showed that the machine indeed malfunctioned, but it wasn't a fracture, just some superficial injuries. The blood they had panicked about on the phone was just tomato sauce they had accidentally spilled. Makoto could have avoided involving her, but instead, he played along with the plan. Willow's heart sank. She couldn't believe that the person she had trusted so deeply would do this to her. Her mind was a mess. She always thought Makoto was looking out for her, that they had understood each other since childhood, but it seemed that, from childhood to now, she had always been the one giving endlessly. Makoto, apart from providing her with emotional support, had nothing substantial to offer, and in the end, she had ruined herself. Willow finally realized how many foolish things she had done. She took the footage straight to Makoto to confront him. Why are you doing this to me? When Makoto saw Willow actively seeking him out, a smile appeared on his face, but her sudden question froze him in place. Makoto's eyes flickered, too afraid to meet Willow's gaze. What are you talking about? How long do you plan on lying to me? You weren't injured at all, yet you deliberately brought me back here. Makoto's breath hitched, his voice laced with regret. I just love you too much. I didn't want you to marry George. Love, your love is destroying me. Willow screamed in uncontrolled fury. She wasn't a fool, and by now, Makoto was still lying to her. I never thought it would come to this. Doesn't George love you? Why couldn't you handle this yourself? Even now, he was trying to shift the blame to George. Willow's heart was completely shattered. She turned around with a cold laugh. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Makoto was left dumbfounded. What did she mean by that? Willow, you can't just leave me like this. My salary is coming up soon. The store needs to pay the final payment for the supplies, and the new machines are on their way. Everything here was something you encouraged me to do. Makoto was genuinely scared now. His voice trembled with desperation as he begged. Please help me. If the store shuts down, how will my relatives and friends look at me? He gripped Willow's arm so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He couldn't let the Ito family's hard-earned pride be broken again. Makoto, I've told you to stop many times. It's your greed that got us here. Willow slowly pulled her arm free, her tone cold. Besides, I'm just the daughter of a middle-class family. I haven't worked for so many years. How could I possibly help you? Makoto froze. What did she mean by that? Bribe price. George's $5 million bribe price hasn't been spent yet. You can use that to help me out in an emergency. I'll repay you once I have the money. Makoto threw the same excuse he used to brush off George back at Willow. It was only when Willow came to her senses that she realized how foolish she had been. She didn't have a big family fortune, but she wanted to build a massive career. She had no safety net, and Makoto had nothing to repay her with. There isn't any, Willow said, expressionless, shaking her head. There was never any $5 million. George hasn't given me anything, and you've already started your scheming. Chapter 27. Willow didn't continue speaking. No, Makoto suddenly laughed, his voice filled with a sharp bitterness. Willow, how could you be so stupid? You can't even sell properly. Don't you know that if you don't help me, my store, my people, they're all finished? You say I'm plotting. Do you know why I'm plotting? Makoto stopped laughing, his voice filled with resentment. If I didn't scheme, you'd have married George by now. I admit I'm poor, but is that why you've been stringing me along all these years? If you really loved me back then, why didn't you run away with me? Isn't it people that matter more than money? Willow's heart tightened, and she stared at Makoto in disbelief. How could he think like this about her? I have dreams too. I've been working hard. I just want to be someone like George, a successful person. Is that so hard? Willow, you said you'd help me. Makoto truly didn't expect this. This woman had handed over her dowry to him, but why hadn't she gotten the bride price from George? He had used every trick in the book to charm George, earning millions in jewelry, all handed over, but now, nothing remained. Jewelry. Makoto desperately grabbed Willow's hand. Selling a few pieces of jewelry would cover it, right? Willow, please, help me. Forget about the bride price. Let's keep the store running. Let's live a good life. Is that okay? Willow was in disbelief. The good brother who had always protected her had turned into this greedy figure. I just want to be with you, to work hard to be worthy of you, at least to get your parents' approval. Is that really wrong? Seeing Willow unmoved, Makoto finally couldn't hold it in anymore and broke down in tears. The jewelry. George sold it. It was actually only a small portion, but Willow wasn't going to tell him the truth this time. George would never have done this before. Makoto stared at Willow, reading confirmation in her eyes, and he fell into deep despair. Good things are rarely continuous, but bad things often come in waves. The circle in City A was small, and once George got married, the bride wasn't Willow. Various debt collection notices were sent to Y.R., pushing the two of them to the brink of collapse. Late at night, Willow found herself thinking of George again and again. Since her freshman year, she had never been so stressed over money. She finally realized what George had given her over these 8 years. Willow leaned against the machine, reflecting on how absurdly wrong she had been. After Anna and I got married, I dropped everything, and we spent almost every day together. For the first time, I realized how indulgent love could make two people. George, I really can't take it anymore. Next time, let's try again. Anna begged repeatedly early in the morning. I, however, looked completely satisfied, savoring the taste of my little wife. Anna felt as if her body had been run over by a tire, almost falling apart. At that moment, the nanny knocked on the door, announcing that there were guests. After some time, the two of them finally dressed and came downstairs. From a distance, they saw Willow sitting on the sofa. What did this mean? I just wanted to see how regretful she looks, Anna murmured with dark amusement. In reality, she couldn't withstand George's constant attention, and since Willow had come, why not meet her? Anna wore a pink spaghetti-strap nightgown, and the marks on her body were all too obvious. In comparison, Willow looked much more haggard recently. Honey, can you grab me some breakfast? Has Miss Lou eaten yet? Would you like to join us? Her gaze flickered to my face, then glanced at Willow, offering a warm invitation. Sorry. Miss Lou probably got tired of eating the same thing and wanted to try some street food outside. As Willow nervously pulled out a chair, Anna's words were sharp. The maid carrying the breakfast chose to return to the kitchen. Yes, after 8 years, I've had enough of it. Sue, if you like, you can have some more. The tension between the two was palpable, and it seemed like they were about to clash. I stepped in, holding out the breakfast, feeding it to Anna. Speak. Why are you here? Chapter 28. While feeding Anna breakfast, I took a moment to ask, what do you want? Willow. Willow hesitated for a long time, her voice faltering as she finally spoke. George, I can explain everything. Makoto lied to me. I never thought all of this was part of his plan. She instinctively reached for my hand, but Anna swiftly pulled it away. Willow, enough. George is my husband now. You being deceived is your own fault. If you're here to say this, then please leave. Anna's dismissal stripped Willow of any remaining dignity. Willow looked at me, her eyes pleading. Please, give me another chance. The once cold campus goddess, who had been admired from afar, suddenly collapsed to her knees before me. I, however, looked on coldly, with no emotion stirring inside me. Willow, don't you get it by now? I said, my voice steady but unwavering. My departure had nothing to do with anyone else. It was because you never truly cared for me. Deep down, when you chased after me, was it love or was it because of the money? I regret treating you too well. Human nature is often cheap. Willow, it's over between us. She tried to say something, but was forcibly pulled away by Laura. I didn't look back at her. Anna, however, was shouting about moving to a new house, saying that this place brought bad luck. The decision was made in the morning, and the move was completed by the afternoon. By that night, we were settled into the new house. Makoto's business payments continued to be delayed, and his material suppliers cut him off. There was no business, but he still had to pay the employees. Every time he woke up, all he could think about was money, money, money. In a short amount of time, he had aged from stress. When the creditors blocked him at the door again, Makoto finally exploded, grabbing Willow by the neck and shouting, "Didn't you say there was no problem? Where's the money? I asked you, where is it?" Of course, Willow didn't have the money to hand over. She was an adult and had to face the consequences of her actions, but she had overestimated Makoto's humanity. This time, he threw Willow right in front of the debt collectors. "No money, but I've got a life to offer. You decide what you want to do with it." Watching the woman being thrown out like a rag, the burly men stood frozen, exchanging glances in confusion. "We don't take women, but I know where they do." The leader of the men grinned wickedly. Makoto crouched down, looking at Willow with an apologetic expression. "Selling yourself isn't new for you. You've already flattered George for me. This time, just flatter a different man the same way. You've been used up, so don't pretend to be reserved now." "No, Makoto, no," Willow cried out, clutching at Makoto's pants. "I have money. I have it. I'll give it all to you." In her panic, she fumbled through her bag and pulled out her phone. "You can have it all. Please, just let me go." Seeing Willow trembling in fear, Makoto knew he had gambled right. He crouched down, took the phone from her, and in front of everyone, he transferred every penny from Willow's account. Just when Willow thought she had narrowly escaped, Makoto waved his hand dismissively. "Take her away." Willow collapsed to the ground, her mouth slightly open, stunned for a moment. Then, she let out a piercing scream. "Makoto, you can't do this to me. You can't." What was there to say? Seeing Willow being dragged away, Makoto felt the world finally start to quiet down. Although the Liu family despised Willow's stupidity, she was their own flesh and blood. The moment they received the call, they immediately started gathering money. But Willow's usual behavior didn't seem like that of a daughter from a poor family. 1 million, this amount aged her parents overnight. In desperation, they chose to call the police. By the time the police found Willow, she was on the brink of death. She had been sold to work as an escort, but aside from her looks, she didn't know how to please people. And with the scandal she caused today, she had become somewhat infamous in City A. Trouble followed her, and she couldn't make any money. The people she worked for weren't having it either. They immediately packed her up and shipped her abroad. There, she wouldn't need to lower her pride to please anyone. When the police found her, she had just been force-fed alcohol and dumped in a park, unconscious. Willow's only contribution to the world, perhaps, was helping the police shut down their operation. As for Makoto, the indirect instigator of this whole affair, he ended up behind bars with the debt collectors from the underworld. Behind the cold iron bars, Makoto buried his face in his hands, regretting his decisions. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. He sat in the chair, numbly answering the police's questions. Makoto had always been a man of no ambition. Only Willow believed he had dreams. In truth, he had known about this organization for a long time, but he could distinguish between the one-time payout and the long-term money. He had chosen the latter without hesitation. Willow had not disappointed him, as she remained as foolish as ever. Ruining her wedding had been driven by his vanity. Once life became comfortable, people easily began to indulge in pleasures. When he decided he wanted to get married, he thought he could use Willow to get a big payout from George. Who would have thought that he would end up cornered, with nothing gained? Makoto closed his eyes, resigned to his fate. Willow never made it past her 27th birthday. On the day of her funeral, it rained relentlessly, and Makoto, too, was finally executed on that very day. Throughout their lives, until death, they remained entangled.